Good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Hawks with Insurance Agency Marketing Services, and I want to thank you all for attending the webinar this morning. We've got a great presentation as well as a great presenter. We've actually got one of our top advisors on with us today to cover the topic and how he utilizes that to create success in his practice. So before getting into the main event, did want to talk about some of the additional ways that IAMS is here to support your practice. First up with that is our new producer builders, and you can see there that we've got a variety of point totals. So when you first get contracted with IAMS, as you're producing in your first 6 months, you accrue points, and those can be cashed out at any point in time. You can see we've got a mix of things there, whether it's marketing and prospecting programs, trips, or even cash. And the other thing I would mention to you is if there's something that you're doing that's working well and you'd like to chat about swapping that in for one of those, we're definitely open to that. So if you'd like more information on that program, reach out, talk to one of the sales directors over here. That number is 800-255-5055. In addition to that, we've got our referred producer program. If you know of an agent who you think might be a fit over here or maybe isn't quite happy with their current IMO relationship, send them our way. Not only will you get a bonus when they get contracted, but then on an ongoing basis, you can earn revenue on their production. You don't have to do anything. We'll take care of all of the service, and you're able to sit back and collect checks. We also have, for your own personal production, once you've cashed out on new producer bonus, our marketing reimbursement. And you can see there that for every $100,000 of qualifying indexed annuity premium, you get $100, and then for every $100,000 of SPL or $10,000 of Life Target, you get $200. If you're currently producing with us and you're not sure what your marketing dollar balance is, reach out, talk to a sales director over here. They can help you with that. Again, that number is 800-255-5055. IAMS back office support. That's been a cornerstone of who we are and who we've been for the last 38 years. Whether that's pre-sale and working on case design to the submission to commission process, we operate at a very high level, and I would strongly encourage you, if you haven't tested that out, I would strongly encourage you to do so. Another theme that you'll see with us as well is technology. In fact, we've got some really neat announcements that we're going to be doing here over the course of this week and the next on how we're enhancing the IAMS website even further. But there's a wealth of resources on there, from quoting tools to product rates to forms, sales and marketing programs, even our sales resource library, which literally has hundreds of point of sale consumer facing pieces that can be instantly downloaded and utilized in your practice. We also integrate with all of the top e-application platforms, so you can see Firelight, iPipeline, and Sunfire, and that's going to cover for the majority of the carriers out there, annuities, life, as well as Medicare. And we also have cheat sheets on that as well. So here's an example of one where you can see a little bit of a deeper dive on the carriers that integrate with Firelight. In addition to that, we do have an in-house creative design team, and creative really is the key word. The team does an amazing job with helping to develop your brand and really be able to create anything that you might need. And I feel like as we continue to plod forward, that's becoming a more and more important piece, especially your digital brand. I think gone are the days where advisors primarily just focused on the local market. There's such a significant percentage of reps who are doing virtual appointments and sales and tapping into other territories that I think it's important to have that built out, so that way people really understand who you are, what your vision is, what your value proposition is. And so the team does a great job of that. And I think one of the nice things is they just specifically work in the financial services space. So you don't have to worry about talking to them about what is an annuity or what's life insurance or how does retirement planning work. They understand those things. And so I feel like it can make it easier when you're working with the team to design things. And if you've got questions about that and want to learn more, reach out, talk to a sales director over here. Number is 800-255-5055. Next up is IAMS Wealth Management. We set up an RIA several years ago with the intent of helping advisors who wanted to incorporate AUM into their practice. That's certainly been a growing trend here over the last several years. I think it's going to continue to be the case. In fact, I'll go ahead and launch the first of 3 polls here. But the team over there does an amazing job. They're really designed around the agent who they're selling annuities or they're selling annuities in life. They want to add AUM, and they view AUM as something that's going to be a piece of their overall value proposition. And so with the investment portfolio, the services, their attention to detail, it's really designed around that type of agent. So, you know, if you're not happy with your current RIA relationship, or maybe you've been thinking about getting your 65, go ahead and check yes. We'll have the team reach out to you, and they can talk to you about what the services are they provide and how they can help with your practice. So I'll go ahead and get this closed down, and we'll move on to the next slide here. Next up is our Life and Annuity Academy. We actually just did our first one of the year a couple of weeks ago, and it was an amazing event. These really are an opportunity for you to get out in the field, come in, and spend a couple of days focused on your business and what the direction is of it, and what are the most current marketing trends, annuity trends, life insurance trends, to be able to get a deep dive with one of our carrier partners. In fact, I'll go ahead and I'll launch our second poll here. But in addition to hearing from IAMS staff as well as carrier home office staff, we also bring out top producers to talk about their practice and what's created success for them, as well as, you know, what are pitfalls to avoid within your practice. And so it's a ton of information over the course of a couple of days, but you will walk out of that with actionable items that you can immediately implement into your practice. And so we did just open up our next academy. It's going to be, I believe, July 24th through the 26th, so here in about 60 days. I will tell you, if you have interest, definitely make sure to submit your information, because they do fill up relatively quickly, and we only do so many of these throughout the course of a year. So I'll go ahead and get this closed down here. Finally, make sure to like and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. We post a lot of content on social media. It's one of the quickest ways to see rate changes, marketing programs, those types of things. And so if you haven't done that yet, I would strongly encourage you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and change presenters over here. So with me today, I've got Mr. John Entingh. He's one of our top producers. In fact, we regularly have him come out and do trainings at our Life and Annuity Academies. And so he's got a really interesting product that I think fits a need that a lot of consumers don't necessarily think of, and some of the challenges with this particular life event. So he's going to go through that product and give us some really good tips and ideas on how he positions that within his practice. So John, really appreciate you taking some time to be with us today.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm assuming you can see the screen fine?
I can, yes.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everybody. Good Monday morning. First of all, what I'd like to say to you is I'd like to start out by mentioning that I am in the field. I'm a producer. We have a couple offices here in Ohio, centrally located around the Columbus area. And the reason I tell you that is a lot of times when you hear speakers speak, they're talking from an office in the home office. They're not out in the field, you know, selling and working with the clients, which, as we all know, being in this business, that's a total different experience than just putting out information to advisors. So first and foremost, wanted to let you know that I'm one of you. I'm out working every day trying to build a practice, and hopefully I can bring some things to the table that can help you in your practice. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the opportunity that exists in the marketplace, and then I'll do a high-level overview of the trust, the product itself, give you some presentation ideas, and then we'll talk about NGL as a company and the way that they've made it easy for us to do business over the last 16 or 17 years. So the opportunity is immense. One of the things that I always say is you can have all the opportunity in the world, but if you don't have the prospects to talk to, it's really not going to do you a lot of good. And that's what's exciting about this product, is the demographics that we serve are really big. If we look at the numbers since 2010 and people who are age 70 plus, you can see that number will grow to 3.5 million, or double by 2025. And over 50 million retirees are receiving Social Security benefits. Why is that important? That's important to us because the more people we have that are in that marketplace that are thinking about, you know, their ultimate demise, when they're going to pass away, how they have their affairs in order, who they're leaving it to. That marketplace is wide open, and not only for the NGL product, but to serve those people as advisors in all financial capacities. So with the funeral trust, you know, you're going to need end-of-life funds. Your family's going to need those to be there when they pass away. And that's what we talk to our clients about when we bring up the NGL product. You know, all good planning, you have to take steps to make sure those plans are put into place. And that's our job. Our job is to guide those clients down that path, so that they can understand not only what the opportunities are for them to solve the problem, but how we can bring those to the table with a different slant and really put them in a good position, so that when somebody passes away, it goes along and it gets taken care of with ease. And so, as we know, funerals require planning as well. You know, 44.3% of the people have done their planning, but there's another 55.7% that haven't done anything at all. And we think the reason for that is it's hard for people to think about their own demise. I think the study says the human brain can think about its own demise for about 11 seconds, and then it moves on to something else. And our prospects aren't any different. Those people on that 55.7% side, they just haven't done their planning, or they haven't been informed of an easy way to do that planning. And the reason I say that is, a lot of times people don't want to go down to the funeral home and prepay their funeral and pick out a casket and go through that process, just simply because that's not the highlight of their day. But I had this happen with me firsthand. I'll tell you a little background story on myself. I'm the youngest of 5. My parents divorced when I was 2. I wasn't real close with my real father, but I've always been the entrepreneur of the family. So anytime anything happens, my phone usually rings to get my opinion. And that wasn't any different on January 21st of 2011. My dad passed away. And I found myself sitting in a funeral director's office the next day, and I was getting battered with questions like, what's your dad's favorite flower? What's his favorite hymn? Who are the pallbearers? What was his highest rank in the military? What was his mother's maiden name? And right, wrong, or indifferent, I didn't have the answers to all these questions, but it quickly made me realize that all these clients that we had used NGL for and got their planning done, that they weren't in that position when they were sitting with the funeral director. They had everything tightened up to the point where they could just hand them a form. If I'd never met my dad before and I'd had this form, I could have handed it to the funeral director and they could have taken care of everything without me not knowing much to anything about my dad. And the reason I know that is true is because July 21st of 2021, my mom passed away. And my mom was a stickler for that stuff, a stickler for detail, always planning for when she was going to pass away. But when she did, and we went into that funeral director's office, it was as simple as handing him the NGL form that we had filled out, and my mom's information was all there. We didn't have to guess on anything, and it just made it easier for the family. And at the end of the day, that's our job. Our job is to work with families to make it easier for the people that they leave behind, and this product certainly will help us get that done. So when we talk about the benefits of planning ahead, you know, you want to make sure we know where the money's coming for those funeral expenses. You can select a funeral home and plan the service when it's convenient for you. And what I mean by that is you can set the funds aside today with National Guardian Life. And if in 5 years from now you decide, hey, it's time to go into that funeral home and pick our stuff out, you can go in there and do it at that point. And then if it's set up correctly, we can get those assets exempt from Medicaid qualification. So all we're doing is setting aside the funds today, and then when we're comfortable with it or the client's comfortable with it, then they can meet with the funeral home or planner and go make the arrangements at that time. The key thing is getting the funds set aside, getting them put into the product so that those funds will get protected. So we ask our clients this question: how much do you think a funeral costs? And we hear answers all over the board from clients. But if you look at the true cost, just a traditional funeral right now is almost $16,000. You know, I went through it with my mom in 21 and hers was around 14,000. So, you know, those numbers make sense. And you'll get a lot of people that say, well, I'm not going to have a traditional funeral, John. I'm just going to get cremated. And I'll kind of joke with them and tell them that, you know, fire costs money too. And there's other things that need to be considered, even though you're just doing a cremation. So that cost is around $7,000. The reason I point that out is we don't want to overfund this program. So if we know they're getting cremated, you know, we're comfortable just having them set that $7,000 aside. And I'll share with you here in a minute why we don't want to overfund it if possible. But this slide here will help them determine how much they need to set aside for their funeral. If we look historically how families pay for funeral, you know, a lot of times life insurance is talked about. And usually with life insurance, these funds are intended to be left to some beneficiary, and most of the time they're not immediately available. We have to go through that claims process where we file the claim with the company, and it can be 2-3 weeks. Heck, we have to get the certified death certificate before we can even submit the claim form to the life insurance carrier. Now, a lot of people use personal savings, but again, if they're going through an illness, those can evaporate pretty quickly. No one wants to put a funeral on a credit card or take a loan, and we certainly don't want anybody to borrow from their family. So what we do is we get them in a position so that they know that funeral home wants that payment up front. They're putting things out there that's costing them money, and they want that money paid to them when you go in to meet with them and arrange the funeral. But there is an easy alternative, and National Guardian Life has brought that to us. And basically, it's a pre-funded plan that comes with the life insurance policy and then the security of an irrevocable trust so that we can get some protection on these funds for the family. So when we look at the NGL Funeral Trust, if we're using this product, any money that we put in there is going to immediately be excluded from Medicaid spend down. It'll also be protected from probate, creditors, nursing homes, and again, that Medicaid spend down, which we really feel is important. And I'm going to share with you why you need to take a hard look at that with the clients. But how the process works is really simple. And I can tell you from settling many of these with clients, because we've been doing business so long with NGL, what we're doing is we're going to show them where to take the money from to put into the life policy. And the nice thing about this is we actually will say to the client, you're really not even buying anything. What you're doing is you are actually taking money from one pocket that's countable, and you're taking that money and you're putting it on a side that's not countable for Medicaid spend down. So once we figure out where we're moving that money from, we're going to buy the life insurance policy. Everybody is approved for the life insurance policy. There is no underwriting. So any work you're doing, you can be assured you're going to get paid for your efforts. Those funds are just going to sit there and they're going to earn interest until they're needed. And of course, we all know that that need's going to come when somebody passes away. The beautiful thing about National Guardian Life and I'll just walk you through how it works here at Entingh Financial. If I were to get a call today from a spouse telling me that their husband had passed away, I would ask them what funeral home that they were doing business with. I would call that funeral home. I would get the contact person's name. I would call National Guardian Life and tell them we've had a client that's passed away. Here's the funeral home they're at. Here's the contact number for the person at the funeral home. At that point, we're out of the deal. The NGL works directly with the funeral home, and within 48 hours, those funds are at the funeral home. So the funeral director is very comfortable moving forward with everything without you sitting there cutting a check to them when you're just trying to get the planning done. If you see at the bottom there on the right-hand side, it says excess funds are paid to your estate. Well, the reason for that is because when you put them in there, they exclude them from that Medicaid spend down. So if you have leftover funds, they have to be paid back to the estate because every state has Medicaid Recovery Act, and they do have the right to go back and ask for those monies. So back to my point with someone who was going to be cremated, and it's only going to be about $7,000 or $8,000. I don't want to go put $15,000 into the funeral trust and know that probably half of that money is going to go back and have to go back through the probate process. So again, planning is key. Don't overfund, but certainly make sure you have enough in there so that they can get taken care of the things that they're trying to take care of. Well, Curtis.
Yep.
I don't know why the screen is not moving. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, I got it. So we often get asked the question, what expenses are paid for by an irrevocable funeral trust? If you take a look down through there, you can see that just about everything that you would need to do to take care of a funeral is going to be covered inside that funeral trust to make the process not only easy for the people and their family that you've done a plan for, but also for the funeral director, knowing that everything that's going to be a cost attached to it, that we've got the funds to take care of that. Now, why is Medicaid protection so important? We talk about this with clients, and we know up front that 93% of Americans have no long-term care coverage at all. And so we just assume the people we're talking to don't have it either, but we'll ask them. And when they tell us that they don't have it, we'll explain to them that, you know, if you get sick and need nursing care, then they're going to make you start spending your assets. And the nice thing about the funeral trust is that money has already been protected from a Medicaid spend down. So many people who need long-term care are going to have to try to qualify for Medicaid at some point, and they're going to be spending through their assets. So putting those funds in the irrevocable funeral trust, we know one thing for sure: the money that we're going to need to take care of a funeral is going to be there without any questions asked. Now, a nice thing about this, bringing that up and talking to the client, and all this stuff you can get from NGL once you're licensed, but you know, we show them how the trust compares. And if you take a look at the categories, you can see that the funeral trust is really the only thing that's going to give us a yes in all the boxes that are important to make sure that the money's definitely going to be there, that we've got some growth, and the funds are protected from creditors and excluded from the Medicaid spend down. So all we're doing is taking the protection of life insurance and the advantages of that irrevocable funeral trust, showing the clients how to set that money aside permanently, and then by holding that money inside the trust, we've effectively spent that asset down, and that could keep that money from being counted for Medicaid and having to be spent towards care, and knowing that it'll be there certainly when your client's family's going to need it when somebody passes away. So the reason we talk to them about long-term care and the fact that they probably don't have long-term care is because NGL has a second product, and this is called the Estate Planning Trust. And so with the estate planning trust, what we would say to a client is, hey, you know, you don't have any long-term care coverage. Do you have any amount of money that you would like to see for sure that would go to an individual, a church, a charity, your grandchildren, and that you could have confidence that that money is not going to be eaten up by the nursing home? And when a client tells us yes, then we're going to start talking to them about the NGL estate planning trust. So as a consumer, you know, you've got choices. We've always got choices. And we can set the funds aside now and have instant liquidity to the beneficiaries. We could transfer a portion of your estate immediately, so that 48-hour window of the time NGL settles everything with the funeral home, and we can cover their funeral expenses. If they don't do anything, then the beneficiaries are going to have to wait for any of the insurance proceeds if they're counting on using those to pay for a funeral. We know about the probate process, and then we've got family members that may be left to cover the funeral expenses. So the idea behind the legacy planning is, hey, we can have if we're, say we put $100,000 in there, the first 15 can be used for your funeral, and that other 85,000, you can actually direct that to a beneficiary, and that beneficiary will get those funds. And you're probably wondering, well, how does it evade going through the process of going to a funeral home, or I'm sorry, to a Medicaid spend down? And the reason for that is, with the estate planning trust, once the funds are in there for 5 years, then those funds are excluded from any type of a spend down in a Medicaid situation if you needed care. So we're going to be able to put them in a position to take care of the funeral and to also have any monies there that they may want to leave behind to the beneficiaries or the charity. So again, we can set up 100,000 for that upcoming generation, for grandchildren, tuition, medical expenses, whatever it may be. But what we're trying to get across to the client is, if you've just got this 100,000 setting in your bank account and you're trying to send this to the next generation, there could be a pit stop in there, and that pit stop's called long-term care, and those funds may never go where you want them. Let's start doing some planning now so that we can at least have a fighting chance that the assets will be there for your grandchildren when you want them to get it. So where do we get the money? They already have the money, like I explained earlier, and all we're trying to do is show them how to take it from one account and put it into another account and get that protection. So a lot of times we'll ask a client, hey, how do you plan on paying for your funeral? And they'll say, well, my daughter knows I have a CD at the bank that's earmarked for my death benefit when something happens to me. Well, if you get sick and go in a nursing home, they're going to take that if you go through the spend down process. If you put it in here, we're going to protect it. And if you're telling me you're using it for your final expenses, doesn't it just make more sense to get it protected? You're not going to get a fight from a client on that. If you have old life insurance policies, you know, a lot of people are holding on to these old whole life policies that have, you know, 15,000 in death benefit, and they've got 12,500 in cash value, and they don't understand that they don't get both of those numbers when they die. They get the bigger of the two. Well, if you've got 15,000 in death benefit and 12,500 in cash value, you've really only got about 2,500 of life insurance that the insurance company's on the hook for, because they're basically giving you your cash value back. So why not exchange that over to NGL and protect that, give up a little bit of death benefit, but know that those funds are now protected from a Medicaid spend down. And then again, we can always, if they're just sitting on it and checking and savings, we can do an application, set up an EFT, and show them how to get that money across. Now, it works the same. I've went through this with you. Again, we're finding the funds, we're buying the life insurance policy, but in this one, we're assigning them to that NGL estate planning trust. Once those funds have been paid out, we're going to pay for the funeral out of that, and then any excess funds are paid to a named beneficiary. So they do not go back to the estate with the estate planning trust, which makes it really nice. So those advantages, again, claims are paid out within 2 business days. We don't have to worry about probate, and then we're going to pay those funeral costs first, and then immediately transfer the money to the named beneficiaries that's left inside of the account. So you'll rest assured knowing that the trusts are free, no fees. So NGL provides this trust at no cost. Once you've bought the policy, it gets assigned to that trust. The trust is irrevocable. I'm going to say that again. It's irrevocable. Anytime I've ever done one of these plans with a client, I tell them, hey, look, I'm going to be upfront with you. This is irrevocable. This is here for when you pass away. Don't call me and ask me to cash it in. Don't call me and ask me to take a policy loan. Don't worry about this. Forget about it. It is irrevocable. We've never had one issue with the client, and we've been doing this for a very long time. The policy grows at a set percentage rate. That rate is not going to be an extraordinary high rate. But again, if a client wants a high rate, they can get that at the bank, but then that money is subject to Medicaid. With us, the rate is low or lower, but what we're doing is we're protecting the money, and that's our main focus. So again, final expense funds are set and protected. The family knows the money's there when they need it, and then again, any remainder will be paid to the beneficiaries through the estate planning trust. So whenever I speak at the IAMS Agent Academies, one of the questions I always get is, when do I use which trust? For the funeral expense trust, it's great for crisis planning. I have an elder law attorney down the street from me. He may get somebody that he wants to get qualified for Medicaid on July 1st. He'll call me and say, hey, can you come down here and write $15,000 on each one of the spouses? I want to get $30,000 off the table for them immediately. So if we're in that crisis planning mode, maybe right now they're not in the crisis, but they're spending their money towards care, and they're looking at this going, man, Medicaid's possible. Like, we may be broke. So let's get that money out now and get it set aside for the funeral. And then when we're doing planning for clients, we do a lot of seminars and in-office appointments. You know, we always ask our clients, have you prepaid your funeral? It's a yes or no question. And a lot of these clients that say they haven't, they really just want to get it done, get the money set aside, get it off their plate, and know that it's protected. If we're talking about an estate planning trust, this is for someone that Medicaid's a non-issue, maybe now, 5 years, never they're going to have to worry about it. But in the event they do, they want to know they can easily transfer a limited amount of wealth to their children or their charities. And again, this is the real opportunity, because this one you can pick up to $100,000. With the funeral expense trust, it's capped at $15,000. That's on a per state basis. I see we have a lot of people on here, so I'll put the state amount up here so everybody can take a look at it. But again, just to recap, there's those limits I was talking about. The big difference is going to be the amount that you can put in and where any excess funds are going to go after somebody passes away. Funeral expense trust goes back to the estate, any money not spent on the funeral. With the funds of the NGL estate planning trust, those are going to go to the beneficiary. So we'll jump in here and talk about the product itself. It's called the NGL AssetGuard. It's a fixed rate product. It's a life insurance policy that has a tax-free death benefit. Once we've established that for the client, we'll put it into that trust, and then that money is essentially protected from Medicaid spend down. Now, if we look at the different states here, you can see that I'm in Ohio, so we have a $15,000 limit on the funeral trust. But let's say that I lived in Nevada or I lived in Florida and I didn't have access to the funeral trust. I'm still going to have the conversation with the client, and I'm still going to encourage them to put the money into the estate planning trust, even if they just need it for the death benefit, because it does start that 5-year clock ticking on the money. And if they've got the money sitting in the bank, we know there's no clock ticking over there. So I'm still going to motivate them to do it into the estate trust. If you were in Nebraska where IAMS is located and I can only put 6122 and they want to do a traditional funeral, I'm going to put 6122 and get it excluded immediately, and then put that other $9,000 in the estate planning trust so that they have the total amount of money that they need to take care of a funeral. So at Entingh Financial Services, I only talk about single pay because that's all we've done or ever done. The minimum face amount is $2,500. The maximum is $100,000. It grows at 0.75% daily. Again, I don't get into, I tell clients, I know the interest rate's 0.75, but this isn't about how big we can get this asset. This is about protecting it and getting some growth rate from the company, and we never get fight back from the clients on that. So single pay, we can go 0 to 99. We're going to increase it daily with that simple growth, and it's always immediate full death benefit. So if you hate paperwork, I'm going to tell you, you'll love doing business with National Guardian Life. There's really only 2 forms to fill out. Once you've talked to the client about this and established where the funds are coming from, this whole process will take you about 15 minutes to get the paperwork done. And that's if you're a slow writer, but there's no exams required and everyone's going to qualify. I think that's really important for twofold. When I wrote my first annuity back in 1993, it was 3 pieces of paper, and the last piece of paper was a receipt for the client. Today, if you're in the annuity business, that if you're doing a paper application, it could be 30, 40 pages. So we've cut that down to the 2 forms. And then knowing that everyone's going to qualify, if you've ever wrote life insurance or a long-term care contract and spent 3 or 4 hours through the process to find out the client's been denied, that's a bummer. With this, if you're doing your work, one thing for sure, it's going to get issued and you're going to get paid. So what about presenting it to clients? If you're new to this product, I'll share a couple of pieces of insight with you. I had a mentor that was very fortunate to bring me up through this business. And he always told me, if you're ever talking about something new or something that you're not 100% familiar with, you're trying to learn it, talk to existing clients. So do it on an annual review. If you've not been exposed to National Guardian Life, you haven't talked to your clients, you've got a whole book of prospects. So if you're doing an annual review with a client, they already like you, they trust you, they know you're leading them in the right direction, and that's a great place to start. And stress those benefits of planning ahead. Procrastination will get anybody. And let them know it can be used with any funeral home. And why do I stress that? Because if I were to go to our local funeral home here and prepay my funeral, and then my daughter decides and son-in-law decide to take my 5 grandsons and move to Florida, and I decide I want to move down there and follow them down there, well, I may no longer want to have my funeral in Columbus, Ohio. I may want to have it in Florida. So I don't have to pick a funeral home. I can use it with any funeral home in the country. And then again, I chatted with you a little bit about the 1035 exchange of existing life insurance. Always look at those old paid up policies, or if they've got a universal life that maybe is hemorrhaging cash value and they know that that thing's going to run out of money because they're not going to put more in it, save what you can, get that cash value out of there and get it over to NGL so you can at least provide something for them before that universal life policy blows up. And then you're giving them that peace of mind. We talked about planning. That's what planning is, putting in the due diligence and the work so that you have the peace of mind of knowing that what you're looking forward down the road is actually going to come to fruition. And this will certainly give your clients that. So where do you find the money? I think one of the things I would say to you would be, when you're talking to a client, use the phrase that I used with you earlier. you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if we really think about it, you're not even really buying anything today. Heck, you don't even have to qualify for it. All we're doing is moving money from the countable side of assets that they're going to make you spend down if you get ill and have to have care, and we're moving it over to the side for you where it's going to be protected. Where you get it from, whether it's a 10% penalty-free withdrawal from an annuity out of their investments, it doesn't matter. When you stress to them that you're protecting those funds and solving a problem, we don't get much kickback or fight from our clients on that. So here's the planning guide that I was speaking about that National Guardian Life provides. These are beautiful. They've changed it up a little bit. I have an older one on here, but they're all done in high gloss. So my mentor always told me that whenever I would go out and sell anything to a client, that I should always leave them a task to keep them engaged in the process. So when I do a National Guardian Life, I leave this with the client and I tell them my dad's story. And I ask them to fill this out by the time I come back with their contract, because if they do, I could put this with their contract. And if I had never met them before, I could go into a funeral home and take care of their final expenses for them without ever meeting them. So again, it's a great tool that National Guardian Life puts out there. I advise you to take full advantage of it. And the clients are so appreciative that you'll hear all nice kinds of compliments from them for you providing it to them and taking care of the problem. As far as National Guardian Life goes, I've been doing business with them. I think it's been 17, 18 years now. Never had one issue with the company ever. Never had an issue of getting a funeral home paid. So again, they've got everything that you would need on their website once you're licensed to be able to pull forms. If you use an iPad in your presentations, they got little presentations you can download, but just a real quality company that actually focuses on this product, and they've become a leader in the marketplace. So we already showed you the stats. Your clients need it. They're thinking about it. It's a great income opportunity for you as an advisor. The trusts are free. The funds are portable. A great company that's backing up our assets, which is what we want to know. Look, in this business, all we want to know is that the insurance company is going to be there when we need them the most, right? We're putting our faith in that. And this company has never let me down on that level. We're going to give that clients the peace of mind. And again, if you don't like paperwork, I think you'll love doing business with National Guardian Life. So when I talk about great compensation, if you're out doing reviews and you just had 2 couples each month that needed to prepay their funerals and get this done with NGL, you can add about $60,000 to your annual bottom line. My mentor was always big on making sure I have more than one leg on my income stool. So, you know, between managed money and doing annuities and NGL, you know, we've built a nice revenue stream off of those. And it's a great way to take care of even just your office expenses for the year by asking simple questions to your clients during a review. Have you prepaid your funeral? And if they haven't, do you have any old life insurance policies that we need to look at? So here's the commission schedule. If you look in that top left-hand corner, you can see there if you're dealing in that 61 to 70 age market, and I'm just using that as an example, but that's an average commission of right around 9%. Where else can you go out and pick up a deal at 9% commission, knowing that you're absolutely getting that issued when you submit it to the company? And the company, if I were to send an app up there today and they got it tomorrow, those commissions will be in my bank account by Thursday at the latest. So they're very good at what they do and they get it right, which is more important. So we already talked a little bit about NGL and their financial strength. There's some numbers for you. I know those are important, so I always like to put those up on the board. And what are some of the biggest challenges? Getting comfortable with the concept. I always like to share the story when I wrote my first annuity back in 1993. It was in a dry cleaner in Marion, Ohio. It's $25,000 check. The application, 3 pages. The last page was the receipt. And I couldn't believe somebody was letting me walk out of their business with a $25,000 check. Now I pick up $500,000 in an annuity, and I don't even think twice about it. It's not because I'm a genius. It's because of repetition and doing it time after time after time again. So again, the more you do it, the more comfortable you are, the better you learn to present. And then if you're keeping it on top of your mind, every client every day, hey, if you prepaid your funeral, pretty simple question, it'll lead to a lot of sales activity for you. So if you become licensed with National Guardian Life through IAMS, a couple things are going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is I developed this guide for beneficiaries, and the creative team will make this available to you. You can brand it to your company colors and name, but I want to share with you the story of why I put this together. The reason I did this is about 12 years ago, I got a phone call from a client's daughter, and I'd never talked to her before. And she said to me, hey, John, mom died, and her mom had a $500,000 annuity with me. And I said, well, once you get through everything you need to do, taking care of your mom's funeral, then we need to get together because you're the sole beneficiary and we need to talk about this. And she said to me, oh, John, don't worry about it. I've already talked to the guy down at the bank, and he's going to take care of everything for me all at once. Well, I was kind of deflated because we know how hard it is to bring on a good client. But I made a determination and I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that did not happen to me again. So I developed this guide for beneficiaries. We ended up going out and placing this with all of our clients, collecting updated data from all of our clients. And then we had some successes with that program. In the first 6 months of going out and getting this into every client's home, we picked up an additional $1.5 million in annuity premium, about $150,000 in National Guardian Life, and about $200,000 in traditional single premium life insurance. So again, we kept doing it, we kept getting better, we kept finding more assets, we kept writing more business. It's a nice vicious cycle to get yourself into. So again, we make this available. This is what ours looks like. And the reason I did this is I wanted my clients to tell their children, this book is with our financial documents. If anything happens to us, you are to call them. And that's exactly how we instruct our clients. So this is the cover of the document that they'll see. It has about, I haven't counted lately, probably about 24 to 30 pages in it that tells them everything from what to do, what they're going to need, where to find it at, who to contact. We have letters written to credit card companies, pension companies, everything the beneficiary would need to make their life easier, which makes our clients feel better. And at the end of the day, that's what our job is, to put them in a position to feel better, to want to do business with us. So again, that's the letter that we put in. Here's the financial organizer. We go back, we get all of their information. We want to know more about their children. We've even started asking questions like, hey, what does your son do? You know, what I see here that they're 55. Are they thinking about retiring? We're trying to set it up so that maybe we can now reach out to them and they can become a client because they're aging into the clientele we like to work with. So you'll see on this next page, if you look at question 8, we've got it right on there. Have you prepaid your funeral? Yes or no? If they answer no, we're not going to launch into a sales pitch, but we're certainly going to circle the wagons, and we're going to come back and we're going to find out what asset on one of these other boxes that we need to move a portion of over to make sure that they've got their funeral prepaid and taken care of. Our clients love this. Every time we've done it, they give us nothing but praise for taking the time to put it together for them. And it works. So again, once you're licensed through IAMS with NGL, they can certainly make that available to you. I appreciate everybody staying on here and listening to my story about NGL. Again, I'll just conclude it with, I am in the field every day. We've used this for a long time. We've helped agents implement this into their practice with great success, and we're looking forward to seeing you be a part of the team. Curtis, if we have any questions or anything, I'd certainly be able to answer them for you.
Let me get in here and see. So we did have a question about, because there was some variability depending on the state, if we could get that spreadsheet out, which, yeah, we can get that out. I know there's a little bit of a variance on max amounts depending on what state you're in.
Correct.
Let me see here. And then, there's a question about illustrations. Is there illustrations with this product?
Yes, so they don't really do an illustration, but once you're on there, there's really not a lot to illustrate, to be quite frank, because you're putting in a single premium, and then that's growing at 0.75%. But that being said, they do have a great quoting tool that looks like an illustration, so that you can go in there and figure out pretty quickly, if you wanted to reverse engineer, hey, they're going to do 12,000, what's that premium look like, you know, to get that amount.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think when we look at this, and it's a you know, a life insurance product, we inherently feel like, well, gosh, you've always got to have an illustration with this. But this is a really unique offering that NGL makes available. I'm going to go ahead and I'll launch our final poll, which is one, we'll certainly get that state sheet with the different amounts out. But if you'd like additional information, brochures, etc., as John mentioned, he's got some deliverables there if you're interested in getting contracted with NGL to get that out. Just check yes, and we'll have one of the sales directors reach out to you. Outside of that, John, I appreciate you taking some time. I know you've got a busy schedule, so I appreciate you taking some time to be with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, thanks to everybody that joined us and actually stayed on through the presentation. Appreciate that.
Yep. So appreciate everybody attending today, and we will have the life sales team certainly circle up with you, and hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Thanks.
Thanks, Curtis.